So, welcome back. It's been a while. I know. Got a message today, and just know that I've been trying to be still. I've been trying to listen, but I haven't done a video because I wasn't instructed to do one. But I believe this is a good message for me to share today, and let's get to it real quick. So, this is over a friend of mine. His name is Kenneth. I asked him if I can share his name. He said, yeah. And I'm not going to talk about him too much, but more so what me and him discussed. So, after being divorced, process of emotions. When a person's really understanding, like this dude here is a big teddy bear, right? He's a person who I've known. I know his heart. I know who he really is, and then when he processes the emotions, I can hear the difference of identity and who you really are. So we start there, and I asked him about forgiving his wife, his ex-wife, and then forgive her, then forgiving yourself, and then he comes out and he says, "That's the hard part for me because I don't love myself." No, I didn't even ask that question, but he shared that, and immediately when he shared it, I said, Kenneth, if you don't love yourself, then I should just get off the phone. And this is where most of y'all won't agree with me, but listen to how I think. I set that up so I can ask him immediately after, do you want me to get off the phone? So where he said he didn't love himself, I challenged him to now, let's see if you don't love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you want to get off the phone. And he's like, no. I said, then you just contradicted yourself, because you want to stay on the phone because you value who I am enough, because you love. And if you love, you have to love yourself. I said that wearing of the emotions is where we're going to start. So I started with the idea of how if you wear emotions, emotions are expressed through not loving yourself. How do you see yourself in a depressive state? It's because you're wearing emotion. And then I went back to the Garden of Eden and started there. And I said, imagine when the serpent told Eve that if you eat of the fruit, you should not surely die. That's a deceptive statement because it's true. But then also it didn't really show her all the understanding she needed. And then she took that to Adam, and I said, Kenneth, the way she said it, like, hey, Adam, you want to have a bite of this fruit? And I was like, listen to my tone, how it changed. Because what women typically do are very good at, are able to scale their voice to a way that is seductive. And when a woman speaks to a man in that type of tone, men listen. And they know this. It's not that they know, it's something that's installed and graded into your DNA, your characteristics. But imagine if she was saying, Adam, eat this fruit, and the fruit was not an apple, but it was more like the vagina. And again, here I am in this thought. I start thinking immediately how the fruit being the vagina, the apple, and then the fruit of the tree. Well, the fruit of the tree made in his image first was man, then became the woman. And if the tree we are seeds of the tree, in order to say have something that can give fruit, created the woman, Eve. And when you have children, think about the process. That is your seed, the fruit of the tree. So I said that to say, hey, look, now from then on, all we have done is the same process. It's the Fibonacci spiral. It's the continuance of a pattern, a cycle. And then we move to the idea of, like, for you to feel like you don't love yourself, you have to start to examine your heart, and we got to discover where this emotion came from. Where did it seep in so deep that it had the ability to almost lead as if you don't love yourself? And I'm like, now let's connect it with the idea of inception. And in inception, we talk about consciousness. We talk about consciousness being the one that you recognize and you see your emotions. Anger, happy, whatever it is, you have the ability to be conscious, aware of it. When you're sleeping, you don't typically have the emotion, right? When you do have emotions are too strong in your subconscious. What happens? Typically, you wake up. It's almost as if your subconscious operates more with stillness, and your conscious is the part that is distorted. So, and when you have a dream that you have emotions and you stay sleeping, you then wake up and it's just like the movie. It's almost as if the message that you saw in your dream is reverberating while you're awake. And you're thinking about it. It's like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know why I had that dream. And you're analyzing it because it was in your subconscious, and it's going to now be something you think about. It's equivalent to when you talk to the mirror and say, you are beautiful, right? You're trying to get something to be accepted in your subconscious. You perceive yourself and you might not be happy. That's an emotion in the conscious. Now you're trying to unlock that with you're beautiful. So the next part that I connected to, I forgot for a second, so I had to do a little edit. I wanted to show that consciousness was the part where you're aware of your emotion, and then subconscious when you're not aware of your emotions. And so this is where we connected that whole inception concept. And you almost want to be able to operate in your subconscious when you're conscious, and the only way that you can do that is by being still. If one is vibrating more than the other, then the two are not equal. And in the conscious is where a lot of your emotions are. So you have to learn to calm yourself. You have to learn to stop allowing the emotions to lead. Why do emotions lead? Is because since the first thing you learned as a baby was to cry. And that was the way that you communicated. And you've never rewired, because it's always been the way that you've gotten some kind of attention. You've gotten some kind of response. Emotion leads. Think about it. But don't think too much about it. Yeah, have a good day.